Now, there are concerns that over 14,000 independent police investigative directorate cases were carried over to this financial year. The Portfolio Committee on Police says this is likely going to hamper the ability of IPID to do its work. Let's talk to Ian Cameron, chairperson of that committee, then joining us now. Then, Ian, thank you so much for the time. Appreciate it. Let's just talk about this exactly. 14,469 cases. That is an absolute mammoth task to try and resolve, even in 1 year.
Good afternoon. Yes, it definitely is. It's also important to understand that some of these cases go back for quite some time. Some are a few years old. And what we've also picked up is that many of the cases, especially when it comes to senior police officers or investigations into the conduct of senior police officers, sometimes also face quite a bit of pushback and further delay. So it is worrying. We can talk about the budget changes too, because I do believe there are potential remedies in the pipeline.
Yeah, I was going to ask you then, what has caused this? What's the reason behind why we're seeing so many cases being pushed back? You've mentioned just with regards to higher ranking officials, but with some of the other cases, is it just budgetary constraints, not enough personnel, for example, a lack of ability to understand cases better because of intelligence and the like, DNA, all of those sort of issues which are currently at play? Which one of those is more significant?
I think there are two things. I think over the years, there's really been a significant lack of political will to really let IPID flourish the way that it should flourish. I mean, even with budget changes and resource changes and increases that we'll certainly see quite soon, it will still take quite some time to really get them up to a very high standard. In terms of what the challenges have been, financial constraints are significant. I mean, there's just no way that you can expect such a small organization, hardly, not even 500 investigators that need to be aware or busy with or occupied with investigations into criminal conduct, serious criminal conduct amongst police ranks. We have seen quite a bit of a change to that. If you look at the budget amendments that have been made, we see that there's 126 million rand, almost 126.3 million rand additional funding over the medium term, which is positive. I think it is a step in the right direction, and they will now have a total of about 421 to be exact investigators. So I really do hope that we'll start seeing an improvement.
Yeah, that's an increase from the current 387 then as well, which I mean ultimately gives you an additional 40 odd investigators. Does that change things for you? Do you think does that mean that the load of over 14,000 plus this year's cases will indeed be dealt with, and that we can get back to as close to zero, of course, as possible? I mean, we won't necessarily get to zero.
Yeah. Hey, look, I'm going to be very honest. I don't think it's going to make a big dent. I think it can make a difference, and it can influence morale slightly. But IPID really is under significant pressure. And I can tell you that if we don't clear up senior ranks in SAPS, we can't expect real change to happen on ground level. Just today, again, in the Portfolio Committee, we spoke about Major General Lushaba, who was arrested last week and was released on bail, and he's back at work. We spoke about a detective attached to the FCS unit in the Eastern Cape who admitted to committing an armed robbery. He's back at work, and he was only sanctioned for 2 months off. And what we realized when we spoke to IPID this week is that a lot of the recommendations that they make to SAPS aren't always implemented in the same way. So I think we really need to go back to the drawing board. It does seem that the Minister of Police is changing the way it has been done in the last 10 to 15 years. So that is positive, but we need to see if it leads to real sustainable change.
Those changes include introducing a digital case management system. How much will that help?
It will make a big difference. It's similar to the MPA. It's actually similar across the board in the whole criminal justice system. There's at no stage at the moment where you can, at the click of a button, have a dashboard that really indicates to you what's going on where. When you ask the question directly, say in a portfolio committee, you'd get the answer, yes, we've got the CAS system and so on. But But essentially, we don't have a system that really indicates it accurately. If I'm, for example, want to see how many women have been affected by sexual assault that are employed in the retail sector, there's no way that there's any central system at the moment that could indicate it. And that's just one very silly example. I mean, there are many, many more that we can look at. So when we start speaking about priority offences and significant areas of concern in policing and the criminal justice system in South Africa, it's very important to have an integrated system, and that adds to this electronic case management system that IPID speaks with. It's not necessarily at a stage where everyone's going to say it's all connected now, but that's the direction we need to move in. We need to have a more synchronized kind of approach where we draw all of the different aspects or bodies part of the criminal justice system together.
14,000 cases hampering IPID's ability to fully fulfill its mandate then effectively. This is of grave concern. All those implementations and plans need to be put in place expeditiously here, Ian, and certainly going to be very interesting to look at then. Ian Cameron, appreciate your time, though. Thank you so much for joining us here on Newsfeed PM, the chairperson of the Police Chair Committee then, Parliamentary Committee then, with regards to policing, that is, in Parliament.